everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Today I thought it would be fun to talk about my most anticipated reads for 2025. So a lot of these books are releases that come out in 2025, but some of them are backlist releases. Of course, this isn't all of the books I'm going to read this year, and I'm honestly still probably forgetting some that I'm excited to read this year, but I thought it would just be fun to go over a little list. We'll do both fiction and nonfiction and just talk about some books. Also, please excuse my extremely messy hair. It is what it is. Okay, the first book that I want to talk about is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I read The Grapes of Wrath last year, and it was my favorite book of 2024, and I vowed from that moment on to read every single John Steinbeck. So I thought East of Eden would be the next logical choice. I think it is the longest one. The Grapes of Wrath is pretty long as well, so I think those are his two largest books, and then from there they get smaller. So we're taking out the two biggest ones. I've also heard a lot of people say that they loved The Grapes of Wrath, but they loved East of Eden even more, so I am excited about that. Basically, East of Eden is kind of like a retelling of the book of Genesis in the Bible, but put into the frame of the American Great Depression. So that is something that's very fascinating to me. Again, I loved The Grapes of Wrath, and it honestly put me into this whole new, I want to read more about the Depression era. So I'm excited about that. The next book on my list is 1984 by George Orwell. I read Animal Farm last year, and it was my second favorite book, so again, it was like, okay, my favorite book was Grapes of Wrath, my second favorite book was Animal Farm. I'll read East of Eden in 1984. Perfect, boom. I actually already read 1984 when I'm filming this. It was my first read of the year, and I can say that it went well. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I'll probably do a wrap-up sometime soon at the end of the month or in February or whatever, and talk about it more in depth. But yeah, I anticipated it, and the anticipation lived up to the hype. So the next book is a new release, and that is My Friends by Fredrik Backman. I actually don't even know what this is about. Okay, so it looks like an artist sees a little statue of 3 children playing at the end of a pier, and she wants to learn more about what they are, and then it just kind of goes about there. It's about friendship and art. I have loved every single Fredrik Backman that I've read. So when I saw he was coming out with a new book, I was like, immediately reading it. Love him, reading it. Because he just does the character and human connection so well, and it gets me every single time. So I will definitely be reading that one. The next book is The Antidote by Karen Russell. I heard about this book on the Books Unbound podcast. If you've watched my channel before, you know I'm a huge fan of them. But basically, they're an awesome book podcast. Check them out. But they were talking about this book as one of their most anticipated reads of this year, and it also takes place during the Great Depression. So it takes place in a fictional town in Nebraska, and it's during the Dust Bowl, and it follows what they call a prairie witch, whose body serves as a bank vault for people's memories and secrets. So it seems like a little bit strange, but takes place during the Dust Bowl. Again, I just got interested in that because of The Grapes of Wrath. So that seems like it could be a really interesting one. I do like books that are mostly normal and then just a little weird. I do enjoy that brand of fiction. So I'm excited for that one. The next one is Relics of Ruin by Erin M. Evans. I read Empire of Exiles at the end of last year, and I really, really enjoyed it. It was one of my favorite fantasies of the year that I read, and then this is the second one, and it wasn't available on Libby, and I had a little bit of allowance money, and I was like, you know what? I want to buy these books because they were on a deal together. So basically, in the first book, you are following an apprentice scribe named Quill, and he is going what he believes is going to be a simple errand to the Imperial Archives, which is basically a giant library, but then it also has all of the artifacts and stuff of the Empire. And the artifacts that he is supposed to collect are instruments of revolution from the failed coup, I think it's like 30 years prior, of a duke. And so it kind of like uncovers a little bit of political, what's going on? And then there's a brutal murder that happens, and it all kind of ties together. I really, really liked this book. I thought that the like found family in it was amazing. I loved the world building. I thought it was so interesting. There's like really cool creatures in here alongside humans, and the setting of the Imperial Archives was like just fantastic. So basically, this one is the second one, and it's just kind of like a continuation of all of the events that happened in the first one. So I'm really excited to get to that one. I want to be into like some more epic fantasy this year. I'm thinking about reading some more Brandon Sanderson. I've read Tress of the Emerald Sea and A Frugal Wizard's Guide to Surviving Medieval England, which I enjoyed both of those. So I've been thinking about like maybe going into some of his series. I know that the One series has been blowing up because he released a new book. Some of my cousins are really interested like into it, so that's cool. But if you have any suggestions about which Brandon Sanderson's series to start with, let me know, because I kind of want to get into that as well. So I guess we can add that to this list, just like Brandon Sanderson in general. The next book is The Bright Sword by Lev Grossman, and basically this is kind of a King Arthur retelling. It's about a guy who wants to go and become a knight, and when he gets to the Camelot, I guess, he finds everybody dead. And so it's kind of like him and all of the like backup knights, the ones who didn't make it to the round table, trying to solve the problem and be the heroes that they want to be. And that sounds really interesting. I love a good King Arthur book. I love a good King Arthur story. So I'm interested in that one. And then the last book on the fiction list will be a reread, and is a backlist book, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I read this book in high school. I absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite books of all time, and I was just like, you know what? I should reread that because it's a fantastic book. So basically, if you don't know, that book is, you are following a young girl named Scout. The whole book is from her perspective, and her father is acting as a lawyer for a black man who has been accused of raping a white woman, and he is innocent, and her father, is defending him in court. And you follow the whole entire story from a child's perspective. And I just think it's a fantastic book. So that's what I want to reread this year. Okay, and then as far as nonfiction goes, I just have a few here. And I'm sure I'll find more. If you have any nonfiction recommendations for me, let me know. I'm not really into like self-help nonfiction, but I am interested in memoir, but then they're also telling you about something really specific. First book on this list is What the Chicken Knows by Cy Montgomery. I think I also heard about this on the Books on Band podcast. I'm pretty sure. And basically it's this woman who had chickens for years and years and wrote a book about what she learned from living with chickens. And I have chickens, and it's kind of become a large part of my personality that I'm the chicken caretaker here in this home. So I don't know, I just thought that'd be really interesting. I also found it on a list of like, if you enjoyed The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating, then you might like these books. And The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating, I read that after I did my whole like book bracket and everything. But I loved it. It was a 5-star read for me. I think about it a lot. I saw a snail outside the other day and I was like, a snail! So that's a fantastic book. If you haven't read it, you should read that. But yeah, I just like heard that it's kind of has some similar themes and stuff, so I'm excited for that one. The next one is Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. This is a book that's coming out this year, and it just sounds interesting. It's like a John Green retrospective on tuberculosis and then how it like still ties into our lives today. It just sounds really interesting. I enjoy the way John Green's mind works. I enjoy his thoughts on things, and I thought that it would be an interesting read. I also like learning about history, and tuberculosis honestly played like such a huge role in a lot of literature as well. Like Dracula, tuberculosis. The whole vampire craze in the 1800s of everybody being like terrified of vampires, tuberculosis. So interesting. It's so I find that so fascinating. So I'm actually very, very excited for this book, and I hope that he touches on that, and I bet that he will because he's John Green. The next book is An Immense World by Ed Yong, and this book is about animals' senses and what we can learn from them. I've heard that this book is good for people who enjoyed Entangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake, which is about fungi. I absolutely loved that book last year, and so I thought this would be a fun one. I really enjoy animals and nature and learning about how we all tie together, so I'm really excited to learn more. And then the last one is actually also by John Green, and it's The Anthropocene Reviewed. This came out a few years ago and I think it actually won the Goodreads Choice Awards. John Green, I like the way he thinks about things and explains things. And so he has a podcast called The Anthropocene Reviewed. I was actually so bummed when it ended because I really enjoyed it. And basically he like reviews just like facets of human life and ties them together with personal stories. And I've heard that this book is like honestly a lot of the same of what's in his podcast, but I haven't listened to the podcast for a while. So I think I'll just like read this and it'll be like a nice little refresher on some of those topics. So yeah, those are the books I am excited to read in 2025. Again, I'm sure this list will like continue growing and growing and growing as the year goes on. I feel like I can already think of like 5 more books that I should have added. Let me know what books you think I need to read in 2025. What was your favorite book of 2024? That's a good one to know because then I can get some suggestions from that. And let me know if you've read any of these and if you're excited to read any of the new releases. And I will see you guys in my next video.